I know, Larry, you have the gift of healing, and I know it's not you healing, you're a vehicle to help people heal. And, I speak of experience when I came to visit you last year. It's
Hmm.
now almost 1.5 years ago, I think it is. It's
Yes,
time for
yeah.
me to come up and visit again,
Yes, it
right?
is.
I remember I had this excruciating headache. We
Yeah.
were in the car and you're driving, and you just, put your hand on my head and said a prayer, and lo and behold, the pain was reduced and then it was gone.
Yes.
But I also know from stories that you told me where you met people that were close to death or rebirth
Hmm.
and were suffering, and families were suffering, like my good friend in Boston that you went to visit at
Yes.
the hospital. I'm curious, and you maybe not even be able to describe it, but when you go see somebody that you see that person is at the end of earthly life,
Yeah.
is really sick, has been operated on for months, and nothing works. When you sit with them, what exactly is happening? I know that you helped my friend because I talked to her afterwards, and she was like clear as can be. Before, she didn't make any sense when she talked to me. So what happens? Can you describe
The
that at
problem is
all?
humanity really loses the sight of what healing is. They really do. Um, because you bring that one back to my heart, and that one was there's so many people that I've fallen into God's love for, and the love is just, it's indescribable. You can't describe the nature of divine love. So when you go to somebody that is not at the end of life, but is about to be birthed into a new expression of life, to be present for them in that understanding. Not, oh my God, she's going to die, but oh my God, she's going to be birthed into new life.
Mm.
You embrace this awareness that this is an elevation of understanding. It's not a degradation of a human vessel, because she is spirit in nature, preceded of that form, entered upon the womb of her mother, and then the flesh, meaning the soul, and the body were created within mom, but the spirit preceded it. And what I've experienced in these situations, whether I've encountered people in a hospital, or I was actually blessed to play over a couple of people that were, they had already been birthed into new life. They were already gone. And God allowed me to participate in the process to bring them back.
Mm.
To watch the families destroy one another after something so powerful and miraculous happens, because they allow the intellect of man to diminish the glory of what God just did in front of them. So to sit there with Anne and just love her, not try to find what to fix, what's broken, what can we do to resolve this. It isn't about that. And when you said, Larry, you're a healer, you have the ability to heal, I would question that, because I don't. What happens is I surrender into God, and God emerges in any form, whether it's teacher, evangelist, healer, tongues, whatever God wishes to express. I'd rather surrender to become the fullness of what God desires in the moment, instead of saying, oh, I'm a healer, and show up and be a healer and just give healing when somebody else needed wisdom. Somebody else needed peace. Somebody else needed physical healing. Somebody else needed spiritual clarity. This one needed discernment. That one needed evangelism. But if I'm only the healer, I'll never be able to be utilized in that ground, because I've shut God off by giving God one avenue to work through Larry. And what I believe is one of the big travesties within the Christian faith is they actually do that. They call this one a prophet or a prophetess, and then they call that one a healer or a healess. All these different people that are, beautiful woman that's a wonderful, amazing healer. She needs to come into our midst. We're thankful to have her here. It's like, no, it's God's grace moving through a blessed vessel of his design. Surrender the title of healer. Surrender the title of prophet. Let it go. Embrace the gap moment to become God, so that the response is God, not healing. Now, like in the case of your friend at the hospital there, and it was a beautiful experience, and beautiful experience for her family, more so. And then even the ministers that kept coming around the hospital, they couldn't understand what happened. Remember the two priests on the floor, they kept coming in. What is going on here? Because they couldn't put their finger on something to measure on the earth. And all they could find was divine love there. and not somebody looking at this patient like, geez, what are we going to do? What's wrong with her today? How are we going to measure her vitals? How are we going to measure all this stuff? Somebody just plain love. And then, as you heard, Anne sat up for the first time in who knows how long and was laughing, joking, having a ball the whole time. So what a beautiful approach to birth was this joyful exchange of spiritual language, talking and celebrating her views of God. And meanwhile, I was able to sit there quietly and release her from something that was demonic in nature that nobody in the family knew about within her. Nobody in the medical profession knew about within her, but it was called the spirit of apostolic suffrage. Because she felt within her heart that in order to ascend to more of what God desired of her, she had to suffer first.
Yeah, the word that comes to mind to me is, power and conditions. We want to make everything conditional. I need to pray so many hours per day or meditate in order to ascend or in order to achieve a certain result. It comes back to the gap again, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, what you just said is, even if we're in a situation with a loved one being rebirthed, and we're in that situation, we look at that person, we see here is the incident or the what's going to happen. Then there's the gap, and then there's going to be the result. But for us, the result is, oh my God, that person is going to be lost. I won't be able to go on trips again with these people. I won't be able to make love to that person. I won't be able to, all the good things that we have experienced through life will be gone. So what you're saying is, if you take that impulse of rebirthing or whatever the impulse is in life, and we look at that gap and then release it, and the result is going to be what is going to be, how would we describe it? God's result.
God. Yeah. It would be God result.
Yes.
Because again, I won't be reacting from emotion anymore. And emotion is spiritual in nature. Mm-hmm. Emotive response of a negative vibration is spiritual in nature. Emotive response of a godly nature is positive, uplifting, joyful, blessed, balanced, peaceful, clarity. These responses are of the divine nature. So if that gap becomes godly as a gift, then becomes the godly result, you're not going to perpetuate the negatives.